Hey guys, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited for today's guest. We're going to learn all about better health and how chocolate can actually be good for you. Beata Lerman, Dr. Lerman, led different roles in biomedical research, development, and consulting from 1996 until 2021. She led scientific research studies in molecular genetics, biochemistry, and immunology at top institutions around the world in US, Canada, Israel, and Russia. She served in key roles in biotech and pharma companies where she led teams to improve the scientific and clinical outcomes for patients in clinical trials. She has numerous inventions and patents which are being used to treat clients to diagnose patients. Sorry. In 2021, Beata founded a company that focused on health, preventative medicine, and health education. Seeing firsthand the devastating disabilities and death in the population with specific health ailments caused by COVID-19, Beata wanted to make a difference by addressing nutritional, physical, and educational components that affect people's lives. She founded the company Sinless Treats LLC and became Chief Scientific Officer and partner at RevoGreen Inc. to offer her knowledge and experience to a wider range of people. Both companies focus on optimizing the nutrition for improving health while offering the highest level experience of food to address illnesses such as diabetes, metabolic syndrome, immune system deficiencies, and autoimmune disease, and cancer. Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
Yeah, that was a mouthful. I had no idea he sent you a long description.
I think it's great. I think you put all that work in. People should know about it. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
Well, as you just read in that beautiful bio piece, I am a scientist. My mission in my personal and professional life is to make a world a healthier place and improve health for everybody. And working in very much establishment science in academic institutions, pharma and biotech, with everything that I've invented, including my 2 immunotherapies for which I have patents. I've noticed, I'm a firm believer in people believing their eyes instead of what is being told to them continuously. Health outcomes did not improve, and COVID was a very big indicator to that.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to see people healthier. I want to see less metabolic syndrome. In COVID, people with diabetes and different kind of comorbidities, what they call, but they're really just different manifestations of metabolic syndrome, had a worse outcome as compared to metabolically healthy people. So I decided to leave the world of scientific medicine and create a food technology company where we would develop foods that would improve health rather than contribute to the global pandemic of metabolic disease.
So tell me a little bit more, what is metabolic syndrome and can you describe to us what that is?
Metabolic syndrome is different things for different people, but if I have to give a very easy example, is basically hinder the ability of our bodies and our cells in our bodies to produce the energy that we need to live, to be our best selves, to make the best decisions, to get up in the morning in a good mood, to have the energy to spend with our children, be 100% at our work. So usually what happens is we consume food. Food is being broken down to this different little tiny Lego blocks. And that Lego blocks go inside our own Lego blocks because we're all just big complex Legos.
Gotcha.
However, if we use the suboptimal blocks, blocks that don't have like a corner here or a attachment part there, it still gets incorporated because our body can't do anything else, but it gets like that structure gets very uneven. And you talk about structural podcasts, so if you use like cheap crap materials to build anything, it's not gonna last. If we bring cheap, suboptimal, ultra processed, nutrient deficient things in our body, or cosmetics that disrupt our hormonal system. It does exactly the same to our body as the cheap and low quality materials would do to a building.
So what you're telling me is what we eat is a huge factor in our health.
Absolutely.
And so then what is it? What is kind of like examples of things that are not good building blocks, and then examples of things that are?
Well, for example, we are pioneering, I wouldn't say pioneering, but exposing different lies about food and food systems, because everybody's counting calories, right? Everybody's like, oh, let's go low cal. Well, nobody thinks about that. For example, a calorie is not a calorie. Example, everybody knows that fish is good for you, right? We'll take omega-3s, fish oils, things like that. Well, it's fat, and it's 8 calories per gram. And those calories would go into building our nervous system, insulating to help the electrical signal go from the brain to where it needs to go much smoother without discomfort. So we make decisions better. We're in a better mood. We are not bothered by like this little, electrical disturbances. Let's take hydrogenated vegetable oils, for example, like seed oils or palm oil. Well, those are also fats. They're also 8 calories per gram. However, those are unsaturated, and if you heat them up, they turn into trans fats, which is literally a poison. They're pro-inflammatory. They cause heart inflammation, blood vessel inflammation. They contribute to strokes, to heart attacks. Those are two same substances. They're both fats. They have the same amount of calories per gram, but one is literally gonna make you healthier, relieve anxieties, like do so many wonderful things, and the other one is killing you, and not very slowly.
So yeah, I've heard about vegetable oil, and how it was kind of explained to me that vegetables don't have oil, and it really has to go through this horrible process to become oil, and it really causes long-term damage, right?
Well, it's not the source of the food; it's what was done to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
so you're
vegetables aren't
absolutely
fat,
right.
but if you process it and make it something like Cheetos, it's probably not good for you.
Yeah, if you look at the food and you can't recognize the source ingredient of that, like you look at the chips and you're like, I wonder where this come from. That's probably not a very good thing to put in our bodies.
So, how do you help people like learn that and then eat better things to improve their health?
So, through several things. First of all, we're launching our podcast, which is going to be called Heal Me with Chocolate, where we're going
Awesome.
to talk about food health and how different foods affect health. And we're going to go all the way to how the food is growing, why regenerative farming is better than industrial farming, what are different practices are there, how soil microbiome is protecting the plants and cuts out the necessity of putting pesticides and herbicides. And it's very similar to how our gut microbiome works when it's optimal and our own bacteria protect us from any disease. Then we're gonna we talk to different chefs, we talk to growers, we talk to farmers, we talk to doctors, nutritionists. So and our goal is to make it very easy to understand all of these inconsistencies that people keep like reading in the papers through a very very unethical studies that being sponsored by the interested in outcome parties.
Yeah.
And
The
just
companies that make the bad food, you mean?
yes, exactly. So as I said, I'm a firm believer in people believing their eyes. For decades, the industry have told people, "Oh, you're not an expert. You actually don't know. Listen to us. We are the experts." But people are actually really, really smart, and they can make very educated decisions and understand what's good for them if they are empowered to believe in themselves that they can. And that is what we want to give them. So outside of Heal Me with Chocolate podcast, we are a part of CPG Houston and a CPG accelerator incubator that's called Good Vibe Labs.
Mm-hmm.
This is so I'm one of the principal scientists there to help CPG brands phase out ultra processed ingredients like sugar, like soy lecithin, which is essentially a detergent. Everybody says it's emulsifier, but who can give me a definition of emulsifier? I do talks all the time, so I'm a speaker at many different events, both health events and just community events. And I usually like to bring real things and like have people play with their food. I think playing with your food is great. Is how we learn, is how we interact with the world. And if I can take that example of the lecithin, and to show people that it's really a detergent, I usually take a bottle, I put a drop of it in. I actually have it here if you want to show it on your podcast. I
Yeah,
shake it up and it foams up,
like
and that
so.
foam doesn't go away. And so when people see it, they're like, oh, then what happens? I'm like, exactly what happens in a washing machine with your shirt and detergent happens in your gut when you consume foods that contain soy lecithin. And then we hear, oh, everybody has gut problems and IBD and SIBO and all of that. And nobody talks about that there is a single layer of cells, like literally wee bit thin of a membrane that separates the microbiome from where it's not supposed to be. And when we're constantly putting things like detergents and like those vegetable oils that cause the inflammation, that layer gets eroded, and then things that's supposed to be protected for you but compartmentalized get out and cause all kinds of havoc on our immune system.
Yeah, it's. I don't think people understand. We never been told that all this stuff was bad for us. It's kind of new information.
But I mean, let's take that. Is it really new? Like, if we look at our parents' pictures, grandparents' pictures, right, when they were assembling or at parties, didn't people look very different than they are now?
Yes, absolutely.
So I feel like we are living in a world where the blindfolds were put on people by media, by advertising, saying, okay, don't believe anything, forget everything you knew, walk away from your communities, walk away from what was normal, we will tell you what to do. And then we can actually go back to those old photo albums. We can go back to those old cookbooks. And if we want to have, back in the 70s, endocrinologists would maybe see a childhood diabetes twice in their entire career.
Yeah,
Right now, it is over 30% of all kids. It
crazy.
is horrifying.
No, and they're addicted to sugar. They're addicted to all this crap that's everywhere. It is, and
It's so cheap. Like all of those ultra processed foods, like pasta, like all of those bagels, they're so cheap to produce. They are much cheaper than even the wrapping that is inside.
it's
And those cheap foods have huge margins. So companies that selling them, profiting from people getting sick later, becoming, being put on different medication, prescription medication, lifelong.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, and that's
yeah,
the thing. You go to the doctor, and the first thing they want to do is prescribe you medicine, right? Even with like irritable bowel syndrome and all of that stuff, it's never. Let's look at your diet. What are you eating?
exactly. Well, and doctors are not really being taught nutrition in medical school. And right now, there is a huge movement of establishment doctors who are starting in this path of alternative medicine, mostly because they themselves had some kind of health adversity. kind of like me as well.
I
So
was going to
I'm a
ask you about
cancer
that.
survivor.
Uh-huh.
And
Tell me about
that
that.
is a wake up call, and it's a horrible wake up call. But every time I hear other doctors, like especially the famous ones, including Peter Attia, Philip Abadia, everybody who writes brilliant books and go on multi-million people podcasts, they had something, and they had a brush up with their own system, and then they said they can't do anything for me,
Yeah.
and I'm not okay with the solutions they are providing. And it's exactly my story too. So every time, it doesn't matter of diagnosis, every time I hear that story, I'm like, yep, that's how it happens now.
Tell us about your story. What happened and how did you overcome it?
So I was diagnosed with cutaneous T-cell lymphoma in 2018, and had an experimental therapy and immunotherapy for it in early 2019. But I'm an immunologist. Actually, I got a PhD from Department of Lymphoma Myeloma at MD Anderson. And I started to think, what was it that I've done that caused me this? And I was super addicted to sugar. I can't tell you how much crap I would eat. And when I start putting those things together, understanding that I didn't have a gene mutation, they sequenced it, I just developed this, and I was like, okay, so it's not genetic. If it's not genetic, what happened? And this
Yeah.
is where I started to see scientific articles about metabolic theory of cancer, meaning what different molecules that come through different means, but including through skins with cosmetics, through the airways with different toxins, through food with different other toxins. And cancer cells, they're just uh, so defective, right? We know cancer is defective because it looks strange, it kind of grows in these lumps, because it can't use like these ancient mechanisms of the healthy cells of how to produce energy. It has to get their energy the simplest, most like basic way, and that is by fermenting sugar. And so the only way for me, I was understanding, to make cancer to never come back, because I had a year 3 months old daughter at the time, and it was not fun. I wanted to be around for my daughter, and I wanted to be like, well, like really be present. It's like, well, if it eats sugar, then sugar has to go. And I went on very strict ketogenic diet. It turned into ketogenic lifestyle. I know a lot of people may comment like, "Oh, this is crap. This is okay." It worked for me. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's gonna work for everybody. There are people who live and die by it, and there are people who are like, "No." So my individual body biochemistry is really not set up for it. So I've been on keto for 7 years. I really don't feel like I'm missing anything. I make my own food. I shop for fresh ingredients. I can make keto anything. I can make pizzas. I can make cakes. I can make eclairs. But when I was only on very, when I was very early on this journey, one thing that I really was missing and couldn't get was the chocolate. Back then I was still an establishment scientist. I was a consultant for an immunology company, inventing new methods of how to get people to invent their cures. And I was like, somebody surely has invented sugar-free chocolate. Like, we have everything on the market. And I went on a crusade, and I tried everything from the most expensive brands in Central Market to like obscure brands on Amazon that would sell like 4 tiny truffles like that for $5 a truffle. And it was literally one bite, and it would all end up in the trash can, because it's so easy to screw up something that has no sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And if
So
you
tell me about the Sinless Chocolate.
well, so because I couldn't find anything that was clean and palatable, I said, well, how did people make chocolate before there was sugar? And so it took me on a journey through Latin America, through those very far off villages. Like you cross the rivers with the jeeps, and it's off the beaten path. But villages in like Peru and Bolivia and Costa Rica, where they use native plants that grow in the area, like stevia and agave and chicory. And I'm not saying all agave is good, because agave syrup is essentially the same sugar, but the root of agave, the fiber, is also edible and sweet. And so they would dry those things and put it on the granite. It's this little table and a pestle, and you just kind of put the cacao paste, which you just pre-ground right before that, and you just kind of mechanically grind it down. And I was like, well, of course, because they didn't have sugar.
Yeah.
Now everybody cultivates it, but back then they could use and sweeten it only with what they had around. And so we found local organic farmers here in Texas who could grow stevia for us. So we do use stevia, and it's green and not white. There is 3 fun facts about stevia that I'm going to share with your audience right now, and they're going to be the smartest person in the room. First of all, stevia is once again green. It's a plant. So everything that is white on the store is not stevia. Please check your labels. Usually it would be dextrose, maltodextrin, sucralose, everything that is metabolically even worse than sugar for you. Gotcha. Second of all, stevia is 250 times sweeter than sugar.
Really?
Yes. So it's tiny bit amount would already give an overpowering sweetness. So when we make about 20 pounds of chocolate, we would only put like 2 tablespoons of green stevia.
Wow.
Yeah, like you don't need much. And the final fun fact about stevia, it is not water soluble. So if they tell you that you can sweeten your tea and coffee with it, run the other way, check your labels, check your ingredients, because more often than not, you're poisoning yourself.
So what is like real stevia that you would want to use look like at the grocery store?
Yeah, there is no stevia that I would want to use at the grocery store.
Gotcha. But things sweetened with real stevia.
Yeah, so real stevia is a plant, and it's not water soluble. There is a different plant coming from Asia, from like Thailand and Malaysia, called monk fruit. Monk fruit is 320 times sweeter than sugar, and it is in fact water soluble. So
is that healthy or not?
It is also healthy. So all of them are metabolically friendly and non-glycemic, because the sweetness comes from a different type of molecule. It's not a carbohydrate. It's more like a fiber.
So it's natural. It's not highly processed like sugar.
Yeah. Inulin is essentially just the fiber from the root. So once again, we grow the roots. We don't do anything with them other than freeze drying. So we just basically take all of the moisture out. They get very dry. And then we use, at Sinless Treats, we use the same methods that, the descendants of Mayans and Aztecs are using, that we mechanically grind. Because once again, what I said, the sources are the most important thing. So we get our cacao beans variety is an original DNA heirloom organically grown cacao. And that is the non-hybridized cacao. It's only about 2% of the entire world cacao trade. So it's not very common. There are farmers in Ecuador and in Peru, Costa Rica, and Bolivia who's growing specifically that time, and they're that type of cacao. And they have, every year they have plant scientists, the geneticists, that would go and they would check all of the seedlings of how close they are to that original DNA plant.
Gotcha.
And anything over 79% is still considered in that bucket, but the taste and aroma of that cacao is far superior. It's also far more expensive, so I wouldn't imagine Hershey's like all of a sudden
Yeah.
start competing for that type of cacao. But what it does, it has all of the necessary building blocks. So it has all of the proper fats, fiber, proteins, and there is no carbs because we are fermenting those beans, so all of the carbs get fermented out. But then we sweeten it with non-glycemic, metabolically friendly, organic, unprocessed sweeteners.
And it
And
tastes like real chocolate.
have you tasted it?
No, I have not. I'm gonna order some because I wanna taste it. I'm excited.
How about I just invite you to our chocolate factory here in Houston? We have a little cafe. It's
Yeah,
right here in
absolutely.
Bel Air and Maple Ridge.
Yeah, I'll come
And I,
definitely.
and I would love to eat some chocolate with you.
I
Most
guess.
importantly, so I wear a continuous glucose monitor. It's right here.
Uh-huh.
I'm not diabetic, but as a cancer survivor, I'm very careful and I want to believe my eyes. And I encourage people to get that technology if they're able to, because it's gonna help their health tremendously. So every time I eat our chocolate, my blood sugar goes down.
Really? Instead of up.
Yes. And every time we feed it to both diabetics and non-diabetics who want to improve their lives through proper nutrition, and they can see their data through continuous glucose monitor and send it to us, they also see their
Really?
blood level going down. So it never spikes. It always just gently lowers blood sugar level. And people ask me, how did we do it? And once again, it's because everything we put in this chocolate, including the cacao beans themselves, is just mechanically ground down. They're completely unprocessed. There is no chemicals, no artificial ingredients. We do make candies, and the candies are very brightly colored. But once again, we found the power of freeze drying different natural ingredients. So we freeze dries like beets and carrots and purple potatoes and blueberries and black currants, different fruits, berries, and vegetables and leafy greens. And we turn it into coloring. So it's not artificial colorings that would bring the dysfunction and disparity. We really want people to indulge and then feel their best eating it.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's exciting because you still want a sweet thing, but you don't want to have inflammation, and then especially over the long term.
At least you want to lower it as much as possible. You want not to exacerbate the damage, and so yeah. I'm a very big supporter into let's put something in before we take something out, because every diet, everybody's being told, give up this, give up fat, give up cheese, give up milk. It's like give up, give up, give up, give up, and you're left with like, well, I can eat these leaves and I can sprinkle it with this water. It's like, what fun is that? Let's put something back. Let's actually put something like chocolate that is undiluted with anything else. It's just cacao beans and organic non-sugar sweeteners.
That's amazing.
And give it a try, and maybe that would and I know it does. It makes other CPG companies wonder what else can they do to phase out the sugar. And now I go to HEB, I see ketchups without sugar and different mayonnaise, and I was like, yay, great, this is catching on, this is wonderful.
And speaking of the grocery store, so like when you go to the grocery store and you see organic, does that mean something? Is it worth buying organic?
It's a really good question, because you see, in grocery stores, you never know where that food comes from, especially if it comes from overseas. And all of those labels and designations, they can sometimes just be purchased, and you don't really know.
Yeah.
And for example, we're fully organic, but we don't have an organic stamp on it because we're a small company. We're just started our 4th year, and we just haven't had the funds to expand onto this kind of certification. But all it has to be is you pay X amount of thousands of dollars, and then they say, okay, you can put our sign on. How reliable is that? Really, we don't know. What we can do is we can say, we go on the farms that supply us. Here's the videos, here are the pictures, this is the farmers, this farmer name is Pedro, and this is his son, and this is another farm. Like, and we really do that. We have relationship with all of the farmers that grow all of our stuff, and otherwise we're fully vertically integrated. So after it's harvested, fermented, and dried, it gets to Houston, and we roast it because we have a roaster. We winnow it because we invented the machine. My husband actually did. He invented the machine that would take the shells all off hundreds of kilos of cacao beans. And then we mechanically crush it to retain all of those polyphenols and phytonutrients and
all the good stuff
antioxidants
that everybody takes out, all the good stuff that comes from nature that everybody takes out when they process their foods.
Exactly. Well, they big companies process it by first pressing out the cacao butter out of those cacao beans, and cacao butter, the markup is 10 times once you press it out. Every bean has about 55 to 72% cacao butter inside. Our variety has about 68, 69%. But all of those phytonutrients, they're all fat soluble. So just like stevia is not dissolving in water, the plant-based substances, especially the nutraceutical plant-based substances, they require fat to be there in order to be available for our bodies to use.
Mm-hmm.
And so once that cacao butter is gone, all of the goodness of that chocolate is gone. And when it starts being reconstituted with different vegetable oils, and then they put soy lecithin, so it's keep them all in suspension, so the different densities would not separate. Those things, those chemicals actually take a huge toll on our health.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of information. It's great information. So if somebody wanted to find out where they get your chocolate or more about you, where would they go?
Our website would be the greatest source of information about us and the chocolate and the farmers and everything else they want to know. That's www.sinlesstreetschocolate.com, or they can find us on Instagram at Sinless Treats Chocolate in singular.
Awesome.
But if they see the hands and STC sign, they'll find us.
I'm definitely going to stop by. I can't wait
to try. You should. I would be very excited to eat some chocolate with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Uh-huh.